this video, you're gonna learn what are the 10 things that immediately tell that you have class. Some of those things you might already know and some you might ignore. These things were taught to me by my grandparents when I was vacationing in their chateau in the south of France. I then used them when I was working as a lawyer on the Champs-Élysées. As a bonus, at the end of the video, I'm also gonna tell you what elegance rules you see everywhere on social media are actually not true. And the first thing that immediately gives away that you have class is that you're mindful of how you dress. It doesn't mean that you're put together all the time or that you're wearing expensive clothes or that you're always wearing a dress, a suit jacket, or heels. It simply means that when you're putting something on to go outside, you're mindful of how people are going to receive it. You don't need to spend a lot of money to look elegant, you just need to choose clothes that are made of natural fibers, that have a classic cut, and to wear muted or pastel tones. This way, you're always gonna look put together, even if you bought your clothes at H&M or Zara, and you're gonna convey this feeling of elegance that make people around you feel good. One of the foundations of class is gratefulness. And something that gives off right away if you have class is how you treat people who are of service, because you're genuinely appreciative of what they do to make your life better. The worst that you can do when it comes to service is to feel superior or to behave as superior because you're the person who can afford the service. My husband and I lived in Thailand for a little while when we were digital nomads, and I remember very clearly going to a cafe where all the digital nomads were, and there was a woman who wasn't sure she had gotten soy milk in her latte. She literally shouted across the cafe to the waiter saying, "You're sure it's soy milk in my coffee?" And that was a perfect example of somebody who was feeling superior because they could afford to live this very lavish life in Thailand with a Western income and who treated people of service with absolutely no class. The third thing that immediately gives away that you have class is that you listen more than you speak. I was at a wedding recently and there were those lawyers who couldn't stop talking about how great the fancy law firm they were working for was. They were buying a house by the sea, how they were considering buying a boat. And although there is nothing wrong with talking about the things that make you proud and make you happy, what was wrong here was that they were talking at people. Elegant ladies don't hold the spittoon, like we say in French. They don't hold the floor. The way it's not rude to talk about your successes is when you're asked about them. The primary focus of classy, elegant ladies is to give other people the space to express themselves. So if you listen to a conversation between two classy people, you'll see that they are speaking the same amount of time and that they will always end an answer with a question. Number 4, you are mindful of your posture and the way you move. There is a lot on social media about correct posture and how to carry yourself. It is a bit more contrived than what I have been taught. In my experience, it's much more simpler than that. So I'm going to share with you the basics that I was taught during my childhood. If I'm honest and relaxed, that's how I actually stand. It's not very delicate here or here. What I want to do is simply to imagine that I have a little string at the very center of my head pulling me up. Nothing crazy, it's just rectifying a bit my posture. I'm not a ballet dancer, like I'm not pushing that too much. I'm just simply up. What you don't want to do is to have crossed legs, crossed arms, or hands in your pockets, which I don't have because it's female jeans. If you're wearing a dress, you won't have pockets, but you really want to avoid to have this kind of position, which is a very closed position and which doesn't invite people to come talk to you. So if you're in the kind of company that requires you to be elegant, it's very likely that you'll be holding a champagne glass. So if you're comfortable enough, you can simply have your hand not holding the champagne glass hanging. That's perfectly possible. Don't hold your phone in that hand because that's not going to be pretty. And then if you have a little clutch, you can very well have your hand on the clutch. It's a bit more, it's showing your stress a little bit more, but it's also considered elegant. And then something I do most of the time, especially if I am a little shy, is that I'm going to have both hands on my glass. And if you're not holding neither a glass of champagne nor a clutch and you have something to do with your hands, the easiest way is simply to have them like this. Like you're gonna sing in a choir. That's my go-to usually when I just want to look open, but also, you know, I'm respectfully listening to someone. If you are at the opera or you're in a fancy museum and you want to put your hands in your back, you can also do that. And you know, you're like looking at the artwork or whatever. If you want to cross your legs because it feels more comfortable, and I know I'm shy as well, so I tend to cross my legs without thinking about it, then you can cross your legs, but don't cross your arms, and simply have your hands like this. It shows a bit more that you're shy, so if you can, it's better if you can have your legs open. Said like that's not what I meant, but your legs just, you know, not crossed. And then when you're sitting, simply sitting with your feet together, you can have your hands on your laps. You can cross your legs. You see, I have naturally put my hands crossed on top of my legs. And then I'm always going to be mindful not to slouch, but to keep my little string in the middle of my head. And these are basically all the rules you need to know if you want to be sure to carry yourself elegantly in any circumstance. Anything else is a bit of a fioriture on top. So you don't need to do this, for example. Nobody does that. Fifth thing that tells that you have class is that you have boundaries that you express very politely. Classy ladies are not pushovers. They know their worth and they are not afraid of not being liked. They're very comfortable saying no, they just do it with a lot of grace. For example, when dating, if the person taking you on a date is suggesting a place that you don't like, you wouldn't refrain from saying that you don't like this place. You would simply say, I'm not a huge fan of this place. Could we instead go to a Japanese restaurant? As a classy lady, you know that if someone takes something personally, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It simply has to do with the way they receive what you expressed. Sixth thing that tells that you have class is that you're mindful of how your hands and your nails look. And I don't really know why that matters so much. I think it's probably because in some sort of collective subconscious, when people could have clean hands, it was because they didn't have to maybe work in the fields and they probably then were from the rich class. But in any case, today, a great way to be classy and elegant is to have nice nails and nice hands. Not very complicated, just put on a little bit of nail polish, you're mindful of the shape, and there you go. Seventh thing that tells that you have class is that you make other people feel valued. Classy women know that helping someone feel good is like a gift because they know they're gifting people the emotion of feeling good about themselves. Ways of making people feel valued are, for example, giving them a genuine compliment. If there is something you find beautiful or graceful or adorable about someone, let them know you're going to gift them the emotion of receiving that compliment. It's also entrusting someone with something. I remember very fondly when I was a child being able to set the table with my grandmother, and she had silverware and I was allowed to put the silverware in the right position in the right places. Another way to make people feel valued is by being of service to them, because when you're of service to someone, you are gifting your time to them so that they can feel better. Number 8, you ask for permission, simply because you're mindful of how the other person is going to feel. And even if you know that nobody is going to mind, ask anyway, because it's going to make them feel valued and it's also going to show your care and altruism. If we think about chivalry in the dating scene, a great way of then being a classy man would be to ask for permission to take on a date to this place at that time. What would not be classy and a bit too overly masculine by those principles would be to say, be ready at X at what time, I'm picking you up. There is a slight difference, and it's not rude to do the second one, but asking for consent, even though you know that the person is going to say yes, is always going to be considered more tasteful and more classy. Number 9, and a lot of French people are really bad at this one, you patiently wait. If you're in a queue and it's not moving forward, you don't start sighing every 2 seconds. You keep your emotions to yourself. The reason why classy women patiently wait is because they know that the reason why there is a wait is because there has been a problem that wasn't meant to happen, but that happened anyways. And there is no point in making people feel even worse because they're already dealing with the problem and it's already complicated enough for them. And now the last thing that tells that you have class is that you don't speak too loud. But once again, because you don't want to inconvenience other people, because not everybody needs to hear your conversation of how your best friend was cheated on by her boyfriend. And I'm not saying that you can never be loud. I'm just saying that there are circumstances where it's more appropriate than others. So for example, if you're going out and you're partying, of course, be loud. Be loud in the bar, be loud in the club, because that's the place where that's appropriate. But then when it's 4 a.m. and you're walking back home with your friends, try to think of the people who are trying to sleep at that time. And now let's get to the bonus part of this video, things that actually don't matter. The first thing that doesn't matter is how much you know about politics. I know, unbelievable. If you get together with people who are really classy themselves, you'll see that actually they're not judgmental. I have rarely met people who were as little judgmental and as warm as people from like what we call high society. So if you don't know about politics because you don't genuinely care about politics, then don't talk about politics. Talk about the things that you actually really enjoy talking about and that you're knowledgeable about simply because you have a genuine interest. Second one is your level of English. For the exact same reason actually, because people who are up there, they don't mind that you are not speaking perfectly. Don't swear at every sentence, but simply speak normally and people will just enjoy getting to know you and chatting with you. Third one is the price of what you're wearing. I was so broke as a young lawyer when I was working on the Champs-Élysées, and never did I get less respect or lesser treatment because I was not wearing expensive clothes. If I was judged, it was by other young lawyers who were trying to make it. True classy people will not give a flying F about the price of the things that you're wearing as soon as you're wearing them tastefully. 4 is how you hold your wine or champagne glass. It doesn't matter. The traditional way of doing it in France is like this. So you don't hold by the stem. But if you go around at a soirée, you're holding it like this, nobody is gonna care. At most, it's gonna give away that you're not French, which is nothing to be ashamed of. And if you find it more comfortable and if this is the way of holding a champagne glass that makes you happy, really suit yourself. Nobody is gonna fine you for that. Same in the way of holding cutlery. Don't hold your fork like this and it's gonna be fine. Once again, the judgmental people are gonna be the people who have something to prove and who want to hardly prove that they're part of this social class, but the people who actually are there, they really couldn't care less. And finally, the last thing that doesn't matter is being all perfect. You have a little dent in your nail polish, it's okay. You got a bit of foundation on your color, nobody is gonna mind and nobody's gonna be mad at you. So I hope this was useful and I hope it gave you also a bit of another insight into how elegance and class really is like, at least from a French perspective. If you enjoyed this type of content, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, and as of me, I will gladly see you in the next one. À bientôt!